American Airlines Flight 338, a deep dive into the story. Flight overview. On July 6, 1996, American Airlines Flight 338, a routine domestic flight from San Diego International Airport (SAN) to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport (DFW), embarked on what seemed like a standard journey across the skies. The flight was scheduled to cover approximately 1,200 miles in just over 2 hours aboard a Boeing 737-800, one of the workhorses of the American Airlines fleet. The aircraft had 142 passengers, including business travelers, families, and tourists, along with a dedicated crew of 6. The experienced crew consisted of Captain David White, a veteran pilot with over 20 years in the airline industry, and First Officer James Baker, an equally skilled aviator with extensive experience in commercial aviation. Together, they had faced numerous challenges in their careers, but nothing could have prepared them for the unexpected crisis that was about to unfold. Departure and initial flight conditions. The flight took off from San Diego at approximately 11:15 a.m. under clear skies, and initial conditions were calm and ideal for flying. Passengers settled in, and the cabin crew performed the usual in-flight safety briefing, reminding passengers to keep their seatbelts fastened, especially as the aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude. As Flight 338 climbed to 35,000 feet, the crew prepared for what was expected to be a smooth journey eastward. The route would pass over desert terrain, crossing parts of Arizona and New Mexico before reaching Texas. However, reports from nearby flights and weather updates from air traffic control hinted at pockets of turbulence along the route. The encounter with severe turbulence approximately 30 minutes into the flight. As the plane approached an area of active weather systems, the crew received updates about moderate turbulence. These warnings are common, and pilots are trained to manage them with adjustments to altitude and speed. However, what started as mild bumps and jolts quickly escalated into something far more severe. Without warning, the aircraft was caught in a violent air pocket that caused it to plummet hundreds of feet within seconds. Passengers were thrown upwards in their seats, and some who weren't wearing seatbelts were jostled, hitting their heads on the overhead compartments. Luggage that had been stored in the overhead bins shifted, and a few compartments burst open, sending personal items flying into the cabin. Flight attendants, caught off guard by the sudden drop, held onto seats and nearby armrests to steady themselves as they moved to assist passengers. The screams of frightened passengers filled the cabin, adding to the chaos. Many clutched their armrests tightly, bracing for what felt like an impending disaster. Cockpit crisis management. In the cockpit, Captain White and First Officer Baker were fully aware of the danger. The controls shook violently, and the instruments showed rapid changes in altitude and pressure, a clear sign of the severe turbulence. Both pilots knew they had to act quickly and decisively. Maintaining control in turbulence this intense required a steady hand and the precise use of controls to stabilize the aircraft and regain altitude safely. The first officer maintained communication with air traffic control, alerting them to the situation. Captain White reassured the passengers through the intercom, instructing everyone to remain calm and keep their seatbelts fastened. Despite the turbulence, his calm voice had a reassuring effect on the passengers, who found solace in the captain's steady demeanor amid the harrowing experience. Captain White decided to adjust the plane's altitude to try and find calmer air. However, each attempt to maneuver was met with additional jolts, as though the aircraft was caught in a relentless wave of unpredictable air currents. This clear air turbulence was invisible to radar, making it nearly impossible to avoid. The pilots communicated with nearby aircraft, asking if they too were experiencing turbulence, and learned that this area was particularly treacherous. The decision to divert, realizing that the turbulence could compromise passenger safety, and with reports indicating that conditions might worsen further along the route, Captain White and First Officer Baker made the decision to divert to Los Angeles International Airport (LAX). The air traffic controllers were informed of the situation, and the crew initiated emergency procedures to prepare for a potential rough landing. Back in the cabin, the flight attendants were tasked with ensuring every passenger's seatbelt was securely fastened. They moved swiftly down the aisles, reassuring passengers, helping those who were injured, and instructing everyone to remain seated. passengers who had minor injuries, such as bruises and cuts, were given first aid while the crew continued to manage the situation. Flight attendants maintained a calm but urgent demeanor, which helped instill a sense of order in the chaotic environment. As Flight 338 neared LAX, Captain White informed the passengers of the decision to make an emergency landing. His tone was calm but authoritative, designed to reassure everyone on board that the crew had the situation under control. Despite the fear and anxiety among the passengers, the announcement had a calming effect. People tightened their seatbelts, bracing themselves as the plane began its descent. The emergency landing, with emergency vehicles waiting on standby at Los Angeles International Airport, Flight 338 made its final approach. The descent was smooth compared to the turbulence experienced at cruising altitude, but every passenger remained on edge. The sight of emergency responders on the runway added to the gravity of the situation. The aircraft touched down at LAX without further incident, to the immense relief of all on board. Firefighters, paramedics, and airport personnel immediately approached the plane as it taxied to a remote area. Paramedics boarded the aircraft to provide medical assistance to passengers who had sustained injuries. A few passengers were treated for minor bruises, and 2 were taken to the hospital for further examination. No one sustained life-threatening injuries, a testament to the crew's exceptional handling of the crisis. Aftermath and industry impact. After the incident, the passengers were accommodated on another flight to Dallas-Fort Worth, and the Boeing 737-800 was inspected for structural damage. The turbulence had not caused any critical damage to the aircraft, but the event prompted American Airlines to review their procedures for handling unexpected turbulence. The ordeal of Flight 338 highlighted the need for passengers to keep their seatbelts fastened, even when conditions seemed calm. The story of Flight 338 was circulated within the aviation industry as a case study on the unpredictable nature of turbulence and the importance of rigorous crew training. Following the incident, the FAA and airlines across the country emphasized turbulence awareness in passenger briefings, stressing the importance of wearing seatbelts at all times while seated. The story of Flight 338 became a reference point for aviation safety seminars, as it demonstrated the professionalism and preparedness of both the cockpit and cabin crews in managing an unexpected crisis. Legacy and lessons learned. American Airlines Flight 338 is remembered as a testament to the resilience and dedication of flight crews who handle unforeseen challenges in the skies. It serves as a reminder that even in the safest era of commercial aviation, the forces of nature can present sudden, life-threatening hazards. The actions of Captain White, First Officer Baker, and the entire crew exemplified how rigorous training and calm professionalism can make all the difference in a life or death situation.